When we find ourselves in emotionally charged moments, it's easy to make snap decisions. Decisions that feel justified in that heated second, but carry consequences that stretch far beyond the moment. Judgment made in haste, without reflection or compassion, often leads to regret that lasts a lifetime. This is especially true when those decisions are made against loved ones, people who depend on us, trust us, or are simply looking for understanding during their most difficult times. One of the most heartbreaking examples of this is when parents driven by fear, shame, or societal pressure turn their backs on their own children during moments of crisis. In many African homes, particularly in Nigeria, family honor and societal perception often outweigh emotional support or empathy. When a daughter becomes pregnant outside of marriage, it's often seen not just as a personal issue, but as a stain on the family's name. The reaction of the father in such situations can vary, but too often it ends in rejection. That rejection, while rooted in a desire to protect family reputation or enforce discipline, often lacks the foresight of what that action truly means. The father might feel he is doing the right thing, standing firm, making an example, but what he is really doing is cutting off his child at the point where she most needs love, support, and guidance. Imagine a young girl already frightened and unsure of her future, walking through life with the weight of a child growing inside her, only to be told she no longer has a place in her own home. She is not only battling societal shame, but she is also suddenly homeless, unsupported, and emotionally devastated. This experience can shatter a person's self-worth and emotional stability. The father's judgment, made in that single moment of disappointment or anger, doesn't just send her out of the house, it sends her into a world that is unkind, unwelcoming, and dangerous. And that one decision can echo in his mind for the rest of his life, especially when the reality of what he has done eventually settles in. There are countless stories across Nigerian communities where young girls are forced out of their homes because they got pregnant. Some end up on the streets, some are taken advantage of by people who prey on their vulnerability, and others fall into depression or even worse situations. And often after the emotions of the moment die down, the very parents who cast them out begin to wonder what happened to their child, whether she is safe, whether she is eating, whether she survived childbirth. But by then the damage has been done. The regret starts to grow like a shadow, creeping into the heart when silence replaces a child's laughter in the home, when friends ask about her and there's no answer to give, when the grandchild is born somewhere far away, unknown and uncelebrated. This type of regret is deep. It is not loud or dramatic. It is quiet, persistent, and painful. It follows the father during late nights when he can't sleep. It shows up during family gatherings when there's an empty chair. It weighs on him every time he sees a girl about the same age walking with her baby, imagining what his daughter is going through and how different things could have been if he had reacted with compassion instead of anger. The judgment he passed in that one moment becomes a wound in his soul that never fully heals. Culturally, Nigerians pride themselves on strong family ties, respect for elders, and community values. Yet, these very values can sometimes be misused to justify cruelty disguised as discipline. It's easy to quote tradition or religion as the reason for such harsh reactions, but we must ask ourselves whether these decisions truly reflect love, growth, and protection, or whether they are simply ways to save face in front of neighbors and relatives. The truth is, many of the decisions that cause lifelong pain are made not out of true moral conviction, but from fear of judgment from others. This kind of reactive judgment doesn't only affect the daughter, it affects the entire family system. Siblings are impacted, especially younger ones who watch and learn from how their parents treat their older sister. They may grow up afraid to be honest about their own struggles, fearing similar rejection. The mother in many cases is caught in the middle, torn between supporting her husband's decision and protecting her child. And as the years go by, even if everyone moves on, the memory of that moment lingers. It becomes a family secret, a wound no one wants to talk about but everyone remembers. Sometimes the daughter returns years later. She may come back stronger, more mature, with her child in hand. She may have found a way to survive, perhaps even thrive, but the emotional distance created by that single moment of rejection is hard to erase. The father may be shocked by her resilience, by her ability to build a life without the family's support, but with that shock often comes guilt. Regret becomes heavier when we are faced with the consequences of our actions in human form. A child raised without a grandfather, a daughter hardened by survival instead of softened by love. This reality plays out not just in stories but in real lives every day. And each time it does, it leaves behind a trail of emotional scars that time alone cannot heal. What heals is accountability, humility, and a willingness to rebuild trust, but even then some things may never return to what they could have been. The lost moments, the missed milestones, the broken sense of safety, all because judgment was made in a moment of anger or pride. In Nigerian culture we are taught to honor our parents and elders, and this is important. But what is equally important is for parents to also honor their role, not just as providers or disciplinarians, but as protectors and nurturers. Children, especially daughters, need to know that no mistake can erase their place in the family. They need to know that home is a place of safety, not punishment. When fathers forget this, the damage is not just personal, it is generational. The idea that a mistake, even a serious one like an unplanned pregnancy, should lead to total rejection is rooted in fear, not love. It's a fear of what people will say, a fear of shame, a fear of lost control. But love, real love, is stronger than fear. It sees the mistake, acknowledges the pain, but chooses to walk through it together rather than abandon the one who needs support the most. And it is that kind of love that prevents the kind of regret that lingers for years. The kind of regret that whispers during quiet moments. The kind that changes a father forever. Time has a way of softening the edges of pain. When people go through betrayal, heartbreak, rejection, or any emotional wound, they often hear that time will heal them. And to some extent, this is true. Over time, the sting of hurt doesn't feel as sharp. The memories may still remain, but the way we carry them changes. Our hearts, once broken, learn how to beat again. Life moves forward, and we find new reasons to smile. In Nigerian families where emotional matters are often left unspoken, time becomes the silent healer. People stop talking about what happened. They carry on with their lives, sweep the pain under the rug, and pretend it's no longer there. Time covers the wound, but that doesn't always mean it heals it completely. For healing to be complete, something deeper is often needed. That is where truth comes in. Truth doesn't just cover a wound, it opens it up so that it can be properly cleaned and healed from the inside. Truth brings light into places where shame, silence, and pride have hidden the real damage. In families where one person has hurt another, especially in parent-child relationships, truth is the key that can unlock transformation. A father who kicked out his daughter, a mother who turned her face away, a brother who chose silence over support. These are not just stories, they are lived realities for many Nigerians. And while time may make these experiences less visible, it is truth that can change the people. And truth is uncomfortable. It demands honesty, vulnerability, and often humility. For a father to admit that he was wrong to abandon his daughter during her time of need is not easy. It means confronting his own pride, his fear of shame, and perhaps even his misunderstanding of discipline. In Nigerian society, where the father is often seen as the unquestionable authority in the home, acknowledging fault can feel like weakness, but it is actually a strength. When the truth is spoken not just between people, but within the heart, it brings transformation. Relationships that were once broken can begin to rebuild, but only when the truth is allowed to enter the space. Time may pass and create distance between the people involved, but truth can build a bridge over that distance. A daughter who returns after years may have forgiven, but the relationship remains cold until the truth is acknowledged. She may smile and greet her father, but without an honest conversation, without a recognition of the pain caused, the bond will remain weak. Sometimes the father may feel that enough time has passed, and the matter is buried, but what he doesn't realize is that the silence is not peace, it's avoidance. The daughter may be waiting, longing for just one moment of truth, one sentence, "I was wrong," one sincere effort to understand her pain. That simple act can transform a wounded heart, more than years of silence ever could. In many Nigerian homes, emotional expression is seen as a sign of weakness, especially for men. Fathers are expected to be strong, silent providers. They are not expected to apologize. They are not expected to show vulnerability. But truth breaks these expectations. Truth invites people to be real, even if that reality is messy. When people are honest about their actions, about the harm they've caused, about the things they regret, something shifts in the atmosphere. The person who was hurt begins to feel seen, heard, validated, and that validation is more healing than any passage of time. There is also a personal transformation that comes with truth, not just in relationships, but in the individual. A father who carries guilt for years begins to carry it as part of his identity. It affects how he sees himself, how he relates to others, even how he interacts with his grandchildren. He may become more withdrawn, more serious, or more controlling, all because he is avoiding the truth of his past. But when he finally speaks the truth, when he finally acknowledges his mistakes, he frees himself. He becomes lighter. He is no longer hiding from his own heart. That freedom changes him. It allows him to love more deeply, to connect more honestly, to live with more peace. The same is true for the daughter, who may have grown up believing she was never good enough, that her mistake defined her, that being cast out meant she was unworthy. But when the truth is spoken, when her father tells her she was always loved, even when he didn't show it, it transforms her. She sees herself differently. She begins to heal in places she didn't even know were still broken. Truth also transforms community. In Nigerian society, where reputation and image are often prioritized over emotional well-being, truth is a radical act. When families begin to speak openly about their mistakes, about their healing journeys, it gives permission to others to do the same. It creates a ripple effect. One honest conversation at the family table can inspire another household to address their own wounds. It teaches the younger generation that mistakes do not make them unworthy, and that healing is not just possible, but necessary. Time may make people forget, but truth helps people grow. There are so many untold stories in Nigerian homes. Stories of daughters who were cast out, of sons who were disowned, of parents who were left in silence, all because the truth was never spoken. People die with their apologies still in their mouth. Others carry bitterness until their last breath. But those who choose to speak truth, who choose to confront the past with honesty, create room for something different. They create room for healing that goes beyond just forgetting. They allow space for love to return in its most genuine form. When people speak the truth, they open doors to reconciliation, to understanding, to peace. It doesn't mean everything becomes perfect overnight. The scars may remain, and the memories may still hurt, but the truth allows those scars to have meaning. They become symbols of survival, of strength, of transformation, and that transformation affects not just the people involved, but everyone around them. Children grow up in homes where apologies are given, where emotions are expressed, where love is not conditional on perfection. That is the kind of change that lasts longer than time itself. In a world where silence is often the easiest choice, choosing truth is an act of courage, especially in Nigerian culture, where family issues are kept hidden, where elders are never questioned, and where appearances matter more than emotions. Truth becomes a powerful force. It breaks down generational patterns of shame and secrecy. It rebuilds what time alone could not. It gives people a second chance, not just at relationships, but at living in freedom. Truth doesn't erase the past, but it redefines it. It doesn't change what happened, but it changes what those experiences mean. It allows people to look back without drowning in guilt or pain. It gives them the ability to move forward without the weight of unspoken regrets. And it brings light into the places where time only cast shadows. Truth has the power to restore what time alone can. It bridges the silence between hearts, heals the wounds buried under pride, and turns painful memories into lessons of growth. In families, especially where love was once lost to harsh judgment, it is not distance or years that bring peace. It is the courage to face what was broken and speak honestly. Where truth enters, healing begins, and transformation follows, not only in relationships, but in the soul.